welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain High and Low, the story of Sword. This TV series tells the story of the 5 strongest gangs in the Japanese city, commonly called Sword, a combination of the initials of each of these gangs. Since Sword is nearly impossible to beat, they are pitted against each other by one of the gangs intent on taking revenge and taking control of the area. How did the conflict between the gangs occur? Let's find out in High and Low, the story of Sword. High and Low, the story of Sword begins by showing a city in Japan once ruled by a legendary motorcycle gang named Mugen, who was highly respected and had many members. The leader of the Mugen gang is a man named Kohaku, and the members who are most respected among others are Tsukumo, Cobra, and Yamato. Because of their overpowering strength, almost no one dares to deal with the Mugen gang, let alone look for trouble with them, except for the brothers Masaki and Hiroto, who are nicknamed the Amamiya brothers. They bravely went to the headquarters of the Mugen gang and challenged them all. Only the Amamiya brothers can match the Mugen gang among the many gangs in the city, even though it's just the 2 of them. One day, the Mugen gang suddenly decided to disband, and the Amamiya brothers were nowhere to be found. After the Mugen gang disbanded, the town was split into 5 districts dominated by 5 gangs: Sano Rengakai, White Rascals, Oya High School, Rude Boys, and Daruma Hooligans. Based on the initials of the 5 gangs that lead each territory, the town began to be known as the Sword Area, where they fight each other for their pride and glory. Sano Rengakai, led by a former member of the Mugen gang, a man named Cobra, has a mission to protect the city and maintain peace during many gangs trying to take full control of the city. Cobra and the Sano Rengakai gang members, including Yamato, who decided to join Cobra, usually gather at the Itokan Diner, a restaurant owned by a woman named Naomi. One day, when Cobra and the others were gathered there, they received news that a group of thugs would attack their territory. Without thinking any longer, they prepare for the attack to protect the city from irresponsible people who only want to destroy the peace. In the fight between the gangs, Yamato accidentally meets his childhood friend, a man named Noboru, who is there to help him. After going through a grueling battle, Cobra and the members of the Sano Rengakai gang were finally able to defeat the gang of thugs and defend their territory. The scene then switches and shows the atmosphere at Oya High School, an all-boys school famous for its students' habit of fighting. Oya High School has almost no rules that bind students, so students can do whatever they want, including going to school for 5 years until they reach their 20s. A month ago, a young man named Chiharu, a new student at Oya High School, caused a problem at school which made him the target of the students' tantrums. Realizing that he will not be able to face the delinquent students of Oya High School alone, Chiharu decides to run away from there. While running away, he accidentally meets Yamato, who immediately helps him fight his bullies. Yamato actually just wanted to get them out of there because they had entered Sano Rengakai's territory. However, after learning that they were from Oya High School, he immediately ran away from there because Oya High School was one of the 5 strongest gangs that ruled the city. He didn't want to cause a dispute between Sano Rengakai and Oya High School. A few days later, when Yamato was at his family's workshop, a Sahina garage, suddenly his mother came there, escorted by 4 people from a female gang named Ichigo Milk. Not long after, Chiharu came to that place to thank Yamato for helping him. However, Yamato asked Chiharu not to see him anymore because he didn't want to cause a dispute between Sano Rengakai and Oya High School. Chiharu then tells him that he is a new student at Oya High School who intends to save a young man who was being beaten badly by the delinquent students there. Chiharu then attacked them and furiously beat one of them, who turned out to be Furuya, the 2nd strongest person in Oya High School. Because of that, Furuya ordered his men to bully him. Chiharu then begs Yamato to let him join the Sano Rengakai since he no longer has a place at Oya High School. Yamato doesn't necessarily allow him because Chiharu is from Oya High School, and they may think that Sano Rengakai has interfered in their internal affairs and caused a dispute between the 2 strongest sword gangs, leading to large-scale clashes between gangs. Yamato's mother, who heard this, then suggested to Yamato to ask Cobra directly about Chiharu's desire to join Sano Rengakai because he is the gang leader. Feeling sorry for him, Yamato then brought Chiharu together with Cobra and other members of the Sano Rengakai gang. However, after hearing all that had happened, Cobra firmly refused Chiharu to join them and asked Yamato to settle the matter personally because it had nothing to do with the Sano Rengakai gang. After that, the delinquent students of Oya High School were seen entering the territory of Sano Rengakai led by their leader named Yoshiki Moriyama. A member of the Sano Rengakai gang rushed off to report the matter to Cobra. But Yamato stopped him, saying he would face them alone because it was his responsibility to protect Chiharu from Oya High School. Yamato and Chiharu then meet Murayama and his men, where Murayama asks Sano Rengokai about interfering with the problems at Oya High School. However, Yamato denies it and says that his actions to help Chiharu is not related to Sano Rengokai and are his own responsibility, so he will face them alone. Hearing this, Murayama then left, followed by all his men. Furuya looks annoyed and asks why he chose to leave there instead of fighting Yamato and Chiharu. Murayama then said that Yamato's words were true because if Sano Rengokai was involved in the matter, then Cobra would be there. That night, when Chiharu was walking alone, he was immediately ganged up by the delinquent students of Oya High School, who had been watching him for a long time. However, during their fight, suddenly, a man appeared who casually headed to the vending machine not far from where they were fighting. Thinking that the man had done something presumptuous, the delinquent students of Oya High School then attacked him. However, the man easily defeated them, none other than Hiroto, a member of the Amamiya brothers who was rumored to have disappeared some time ago. The scene then switches and shows the atmosphere at Oya High School, which has one rule. Whoever manages to withstand 100 hits will be crowned the leader of Oya High School. Previously, Furuya could withstand up to 98 blows. Then came Murayama, who was able to withstand 100 blows. It didn't stop there. He was able to beat everyone there, so he was immediately named the leader of the Oya High School delinquent student gang. Elsewhere, Yamato is with Naomi, and they are discussing the dispute between Yamato and Cobra. Yamato insists on protecting Chiharu because he doesn't want to repeat the same mistake and regret it a second time, where at that time, he did not help Noboru when he got into trouble. Noboru is a childhood friend of Yamato and Cobra who gets into trouble with the gangsters and gets him thrown into prison. Even though Noboru is now free from prison, Yamato still holds feelings of guilt and regrets his actions when he was too afraid to defend and protect his own friend. On the other hand, Chiharu apparently overheard Yamato and Naomi's conversation and was determined to solve the problem himself because he didn't want to bother Yamato. When Chiharu heads to Oya High School to solve his problems on his own, one of the members of the Sano Rengokai gang, a man named Tetsu, finds out and immediately alerts Yamato. Hearing this, Yamato rushed after Chiharu, while Naomi immediately went to Cobra and told him that Yamato and Chiharu were heading to Oya High School to solve their problems. Arriving at Oya High School, Chiharu was immediately ganged up by Furuya's men. Not long after, Yamato came there and immediately helped him. Yamato then forced Chiharu and Furuya to enter a classroom and solve their problems there while he guarded the classroom door so no one would disturb them and interfere. Yamato kept guarding the door without putting up a fight, even though he was severely beaten by the delinquent students of Oya High School. Yamato deliberately did not fight because he did not want to cause a dispute between Oya High School and Sano Rengokai. Unexpectedly, it turns out that Cobra comes to Oya High School with his men to help Yamato, even though this can cause a fierce fight between the two strongest sword gangs. But Cobra doesn't care about that, because he, same as Yamato, doesn't want to regret a second time when Noboru was in trouble, and he chose to stay silent and didn't help him. Cobra doesn't want to repeat the same mistake and is determined to help his best friend, Yamato, even though he has to fight Oya High School. Cobra and members of the Sano Rengokai gang then broke into Oya High School and beat up the delinquent students there. Cobra saw how Yamato still didn't fight back even though he had been beaten badly. However, Cobra could not let that happen and then helped Yamato. Cobra and Yamato then entered the classroom and found Furuya and Chiharu fighting fiercely. Despite being beaten badly and repeatedly falling to the floor, Chiharu never gave up, kept getting up, and was determined to beat Furuya. Not long after, Murayama came to that place and immediately challenged Cobra to fight one-on-one with him. Cobra then accepted the challenge, and a fierce battle between the two strongest sword gang leaders was inevitable. Both Cobra and Murayama have formidable physical endurance and fighting abilities that cannot be underestimated. But apparently, Cobra has far more fighting experience than Murayama, so he was finally able to overthrow Murayama with one crushing blow. The delinquent students prepared to beat Cobra, seeing the leader being taken down. But Murayama immediately stopped them because he had already admitted defeat, so they didn't need to extend the matter any longer. Cobra and his men immediately left Oya High School, where Cobra told Yamato that Murayama and the delinquent students of Oya High School would become stronger after today's fight. That night, Cobra decides to accept Chiharu from joining Sano Rengokai, and he finally becomes part of one of the strongest gangs of sword. The scene then switches and shows the White Rascals gang led by Rocky. The White Rascals are a gang that dominates the city's nightlife, and their trademark is wearing all white outfits. They call themselves the protectors of women and do not hesitate to beat the men who dare to hurt women, especially if it is done in front of their eyes. Elsewhere, two men of the Sano Rengokai gang, named Tetsu and Don, are seen enjoying dinner at a diner. After that, Don is seen coming out of there and chasing a beautiful girl. Don, who really wants to have a girlfriend, looks happy when the beautiful girl named Lala is friendly and doesn't even feel awkward when she is around him. Lala then took Don to a nightclub at the White Rascals' headquarters, where she then asked him to give an SD card to a bald man not far from where they were sitting. At first, Don refused because he didn't want to cause any trouble at the White Rascals' headquarters. But Lala convinced him, so he finally complied with Lala's request. However, when Don was about to hand over the SD card to the bald man, suddenly someone wearing a black jacket bumped into him and stole the SD card. Don did not stay silent and immediately chased the thief, but he could not find his whereabouts anywhere. Elsewhere, Rocky was seen witnessing the theft incident through a CCTV camera in his room on the top floor of the nightclub. One of Rocky's men recognizes Don as a member of the Sano Rengakai gang, but they don't know his identity yet. The next day, Rocky and his men immediately visited the Itokan diner and ransacked the place because it was the headquarters of Sano Rengakai. Naomi couldn't help but remain silent as Rocky and White Rascals messed up in her place. Rocky then asks Naomi about Don and finds out his identity. After that, Rocky threatens that he will go back there and destroy the Itokan diner if the SD card is not returned to their hands soon. Cobra and Yamato, who heard that, immediately cornered Don and demanded an explanation from him. Don then told him everything and confirmed that he didn't steal the SD card. Naomi was annoyed that Itokan diner was dragged into the matter and kicked them out. The next day, when Cobra and the others were discussing the problems of Don and the White Rascals at Asahina Garage, they were suddenly visited by Noboru, who is now a member of the Iemura, which is part of the Kuryu group. The Iemura group is led by Tatsumi Iemura, one of Kuryu's 9 dragons whose ambition is to expand his power by taking over the sword territory. Noboru is the one appointed by Iemura to take over the sword area from the gangs that control it today. He came to Cobra as the leader of Sano Rengakai and asked him to join the Iemura group, and if they refused, then Noboru and Iemura group would not hesitate to kill them all. Before leaving, Noboru gave Cobra and the others one night to think about what decision they would make, join him in the Iemura group or prepare for an attack from them. The scene then switches to the past when Noboru, Cobra, and Yamato were still good friends. Unlike Cobra and Yamato, Noboru used to be a smart young man and prioritized his education up to the college level. Noboru meets a girl named Miho on campus, who immediately becomes interested in her. After getting to know each other better, Noboru and Miho decide to date. One day, Miho was invited by her friends to celebrate a year-end party. However, a terrible incident happened to Miho when she was sexually assaulted. After that, Miho shut herself off from everyone, including Noboru, who tried to contact her, and even visited her apartment because he was worried about her condition. After Noboru finally finds out what happened to Miho, he rushes back to Miho's apartment and is shocked to find that she has ended her life. Noboru immediately felt angry and determined to avenge Miho's death. Naomi tried to stop him but to no avail. Noboru then went to the men who had raped Miho and beat them madly until one of them died. Noboru was immediately arrested by the police for his actions, while Cobra and Yamato could not do anything to help him out of his troubles. While in prison, Noboru, who has given up on his life, then meets a man who promises him a new better life. But on one condition, he must join the Iemura group and erase his past. Long story short, Noboru was finally released from prison and joined the Iemura group. Turning to the present, Noboru was questioned by Iemura group officials about his decision to give Sano Rengakai a deadline because Cobra and Yamato were his childhood friends. However, Noboru rebuffs it and insists he has erased his past, including his friendship with Cobra and Yamato. When Cobra and Noboru meet again, Cobra confirms his refusal to join the Iemura group and asks Noboru to join him. But Noboru refuses Cobra's request and emphasizes that he is not messing with his threat to destroy the Sano Rengakai. On the other hand, Yamato plans to take revenge on the White Rascals for tearing apart Naomi's restaurant. But Naomi stopped him right away because she didn't want a chain of revenge. After all, Noboru had done the same thing, and Naomi didn't want them to repeat the same mistake, which would destroy them. Meanwhile elsewhere, Don, who was looking for Lala's whereabouts to solve his problems with the White Rascals, accidentally met several members of the White Rascals. He tried to explain that he didn't steal the SD card, but his efforts were in vain. Don was immediately poorly beaten by the members of the White Rascals gang, and despite his efforts, he was finally able to escape from them. Meanwhile, Chiharu and Yamato, cleaning and tidying up the scattered items at the Itokan diner, accidentally found a note left by Rocky. It stated that Rocky and the White Rascals would be responsible for all the repair costs and the items they had destroyed in the restaurant. When Yamato accidentally dropped Chiharu's jacket, he found the SD card in the jacket pocket. He then asked Chiharu why the SD card that the White Rascals had been looking for was in his hands, which showed that Chiharu was the one who stole the SD card from Don. Because his actions were discovered by Yamato, Chiharu immediately ran away from there. Yamato tried to chase after him but lost track of him. Long story short, Don finally managed to find traces of Lala and secretly followed her to Nameless Road, which is known to be the headquarters of the Rude Boys gang. Nameless Road is a place for outcasts, a place for children abandoned by their parents, and a place for people whose hearts have been filled with darkness. However, the people living on Nameless Road are protected by the Rude Boys gang led by Smokey. The famous members include Shion, Takeshi, and P. In addition to being good at fighting, the Rude Boys are known as a gang whose members are good at doing parkour and combining parkour movements in combat to have a beautiful and dynamic fighting style. Don secretly enters the place and discovers that Lala is Smokey's sister. Not only that, but he found a place where drugs were made and saw Chiharu was there too. Meanwhile, Yamato immediately rushed to the White Rascals' headquarters to hand over the SD card. He said he found the SD card in Chiharu's jacket and thought Chiharu had stolen it. However, Yamato confirmed that Sano Rengekai was not involved in the theft. Rocky then explained that he really wanted the SD card because it contained information about drug trafficking transactions in his area. He planned to eradicate drug trafficking in the White Rascals' territory and condemned the action. Through White Rascals, Yamato gets information about Lala, who turns out to be Smokey's younger sister, a leader of the Rude Boys gang. Yamato then met Cobra and the others and told them all the information the White Rascals had regarding Lala and Smokey, where they assumed that the Rude Boys were behind all of this. Cobra guessed that Don must be in Nameless Road by now looking for Lala, so they rushed there. However, suddenly Don appeared and told them what he had found on Nameless Road, including where the drugs were made and Chiharu. Meanwhile, the Iemura group seems frustrated that they have not been able to control the sword area because the 5 gangs they refuse to join or surrender their power voluntarily. Their leader, Iemura Tatsumi, ordered Noboru to immediately carry out his plan and threatened to destroy him if he failed to seize sword territory from the 5 gangs. Noboru visits the Daruma Hooligans' headquarters in the evening, but they refuse to join. He insists on meeting the leader of the Daruma Hooligans gang but is prevented by the other members. Noboru again meets with Cobra, who tries to convince him to leave the Iemura group and join the Sano Rengekai, but he refuses and insists that he has thrown away his past and friendship with Cobra and Yamato. Noboru said that Sano Rengekai and the rest of the sword gang could only solve problems by fighting. Yamato, worried about Chiharu, went to the Rude Boys' headquarters alone. Yamato's arrival there was immediately noticed by Smokey and the other members of the Rude Boys. Yamato then accused the Rude Boys of making a drug called Red Rum. However, before Smokey had time to explain everything, Don and Tetsu came there, and they immediately got into a fight with the Rude Boys gang. When Yamato and Smokey were fighting, Smokey suddenly coughed up blood, so Yamato and the others immediately took the opportunity to run away from there. Yamato and the others headed straight for the Red Rum brewery that Don had previously seen and found Chiharu's presence there. Without thinking any longer, they went straight to Chiharu. Seeing Yamato's arrival, Chiharu then reveals that he was forced to do all that to pay off his father's debt. Because Noboru promised a pretty lucrative fee if he was willing to work for the Iemura group, where Chiharu worked making Red Rum on Nameless Road and reported all the activities of the Sano Rengekai gang to Noboru. Not only Chiharu, but Shion, a member of the Rude Boys, is involved in making Red Rum with the promise of similar rewards. Yamato finally finds out that the theft incident at the White Rascals nightclub had been planned by Noboru to cause a dispute between the White Rascals, Sano Rengekai, and the Rude Boys. Hearing all this, an angry Yamato destroys the Red Rum factory and beats Shion. Not long after, Smokey and other members of the Rude Boys came to the place and were followed later by Rocky and the White Rascals, who came to Nameless Road to fight with the Rude Boys for being presumptuous of drug trafficking in their area. The White Rascals and the Rude Boys almost got into a fight. Still, Yamato managed to quell the heated dispute between them by saying that it was the Iemura group's plan to make the 5 sword gangs destroy each other to fully control the sword territory. After that, Shion seemed to be kicked out of the Rude Boys gang because he was considered a traitor for making illegal drugs, even though the reason Shion accepted an offer from the Iemura group was to take Smokey to the hospital and treat his illness. Meanwhile, at the Iemura group headquarters, Noboru is badly beaten by Nikaido, one of the executives at Iemura group, for failing to destroy Sword. Even the red rum factory on Nameless Road was destroyed by them. Noboru is then locked up by Nikaido in a warehouse. Elsewhere, Chiharu, who feels guilty for betraying Yamato and the others, decides to leave Sano Rengokai. But Cobra and Yamato forbid him because they have considered Chiharu their friend, and in Sano Rengokai, they will never let their friends get into trouble and leave the group just like that. The scene then switches to the past, where there used to be a group called the Hyuga Group, which was part of the Koryu Group. The Hyuga Group then challenged the Mugen gang to fight to make their name more famous. However, the Hyuga Group could easily be defeated by Mugen. After suffering a crushing defeat, the Hyuga Group was immediately expelled from the Koryu Group and lost its reputation. To restore the honor of the Hyuga Group, the fourth son of the Hyuga family, Norihisa, has the ambition to take revenge on the Koryu Group and the Mugen gang. He then launched a brutal act of revenge, which caused him to be thrown into prison. Elsewhere, the brothers Ukyo and Sakyo are kicked out of Mugen's gang and finally decide to join Norihisa to take revenge because they hate Mugen so much. Turning to the present, Norihisa is finally released from prison by the Iemura Group, where they plan to destroy Sword by using Norihisa's ambition to take revenge on the remaining members of the Mugen gang. The latter have now joined and formed the Sano Rengokai gang. After Norihisa is released from prison and forms Daruma Hooligans, they begin to launch attacks on other sword gangs, starting from White Rascals, Oya High School, and Rude Boys. Norihisa let the Iemura Group think they could use him to dominate the sword area. Even though Norihisa has a plan of his own, he will defeat the sword gang and take over their power before launching action of revenge on the Koryu Group, which has dumped the Hyuga Group in the past. But before that, Norihisa wants to take revenge on the remaining members of Mugen who have now joined the Sano Rengokai gang. Norihisa and the Daruma Hooligans gang members headed straight for the Sano Rengokai headquarters. But there were only Don, Tetsu, and Chiharu. Not wanting to get Naomi and Itokan Diner into trouble, Don then provokes Norihisa and Daruma Hooligans to fight somewhere far away. Arriving there, Tetsu and the other members of the Sano Rengokai had been waiting for Don's arrival. Before fighting, the members of Daruma Hooligans paint their eyelids red and beat the drums as a sign that the war has begun. The members of the Sano Rengokai and Daruma Hooligans got into a fierce fight, but Cobra and Yamato weren't there. Naomi then looked for the whereabouts of the two of them and told them about the big fight. Without further ado, Cobra and Yamato headed straight for the fight scene, where the members of the Sano Rengokai had fallen and lay helpless. Norihisa, who had just appeared there, then ordered the members of Daruma Hooligans to get back up because the fight was not over before they killed Cobra and Yamato. They were predicted to be the strongest Mugen members. Yamato tried to convince Norihisa to stop the fight, but he didn't seem to care and started attacking the two of them. The members of Sano Rengokai then get back up and fight against Daruma Hooligans. During the fight, Cobra considers what Noboru said about those who always use violence as a solution to solve all the problems they face. Meanwhile, Nikaido meets Noboru and decides to give him one more chance to prove his loyalty to the Iemura Group. He then gave a gun to Noboru and asked him to finish everything according to their plan. Turning back to the fight scene, Norihisa defeats his opponents with great ease, not even hesitating to break their arms and legs, as if fighting and hurting other people is fun for him. When Cobra tried to stop Norihisa's movement, suddenly, the other three sword gangs, the White Rascals, Rude Boys, and Oya High School, came in full force, preparing to take revenge on Daruma Hooligans. However, Cobra immediately stopped them by saying that their real enemy was the Iemura Group, who purposely divided them to take over their power from the sword area. But Norihisa didn't seem to care and continued to beat Cobra hard, even though he didn't return the blow. Not long after, Noboru came there and pointed a gun at them, threatening everyone to surrender to the Iemura Group and saying that he would not hesitate to kill them all. However, none of them wanted to join the Iemura Group or give up their power just like that. Unexpectedly, Cobra stated that Sano Rengokai was disbanded. He then reveals that he formed the Sano Rengokai gang to welcome Noboru's return. But when Noboru said that he would not return to his friends who had been waiting for his return for so long, Cobra thought that his efforts to form the Sano Rengokai were in vain. He tried to approach Noboru and convince him. However, Noboru immediately panicked and deliberately fired his gun at Cobra, who was immediately blocked by Chiharu. Luckily, Noboru's shot missed and didn't hit anyone. Cobra said that he understood the decision made by Noboru, who only wanted to protect his friends from being destroyed by the Iemura Group. But according to Cobra, Noboru did the wrong thing by sparking strife among the 5 strongest sword gangs. In the end, Noboru gave up on his plan and decided to return to Cobra and Yamato and join Sano Rengokai. The other 4 sword gangs who saw this were silent and then decided to leave, assuming that their business was finished and there was no need to make it difficult for them to continue on important fights. Norihisa seemed to have begun to understand the real situation and chose to leave the place with the members of Dharma hooligans. Long story short, Noboru finally officially joins Sano Rengokai and looks happy because he can reunite with his best friends Cobra and Yamato like before. However, suddenly Noboru was hit by a car. The first season of the series concludes by showing the Amamiya brothers riding their motorcycle and crossing paths with Kohaku, the former leader of Mugen. After that, a group of elegant-looking people driving luxury sports cars were shown entering the sword area. Who are they? Please look forward to our next video. Thanks for watching. The moral that can be learned from this series is that friendship is one of the most important things in life, because true friends will always support us in any situation. Even when everyone is against us, true friends will always be by our side and faithfully accompany us. In addition, never betray other people's trust when they fully trust us and really care about our situation, because if they feel hurt, they may find it difficult to forgive our mistakes.